Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Hope you've had a great week. I know it's been maybe even a little bit longer than a week since you've heard my voice. And Danny, of course, it'll be even longer because he's not with us today. But, sickness has hit the households of my family and Danny's family and probably yours as well. And so we kind of took some time off because we could not get connected at all with our busy schedules and dealing with sick children. So hope you're healthy and well. But today I have Phil Zimmerman with me, who I have talked to a few times in the Dad Lounge, but I know him best from his podcast, Hop on Pop Culture. And this podcast, I enjoy it so much. One, I love the art because Dr. Seuss, that's just king to me in the world of books for kids. But at the same time, too, the topics and conversations that go on, similar to what this show is, but also, I guess that honey didn't work so well.
No, not enough garlic in it.
Not enough. But also, too, like just between the conversations and the topics, they're very similar in shows. But I feel like you guys go way deeper than we do when it comes to just getting into the pop culture side of things. So, Phil, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to get to spend this time with you.
Well, thank you. This is not my beautiful pod. This is not my beautiful cast. You're not my beautiful co-host. Where have you taken me? This place is lovely. Thank you for having me over.
Yeah, definitely. I
We
told
have
my
been
wife
sick too. You guys put out episodes weekly, huh?
we do. Yeah, weekly.
That's nuts. I mean, I think we're at different spots. Dylan and I, our kids are like 5 and 6.
Okay.
And we try to get one out a month, and that's about our bandwidth right now. We're trying to do other stuff with the network too that we're part of,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's nuts. And we're like, it's almost the end of February. We're gonna get one done. We're meeting tomorrow, but we have delayed our recording session about 6 times because families have been sick. And then last night I started getting sick too with a head cold.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that for us, our kids are older. I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. He's got kids that are college, I think like 15, 13, and I think 7 or 9 or something like that. So, yeah, older kids, it just kind of works really well. And two, we also do our recording while they're at school. So,
Oh,
that's the
that's
other
nice.
part.
Dylan and I
Yeah.
wait until the nighttime after bedtime is done, and then we meet because he
Yeah, I
works
can't do
during the
that
day.
because
I'm a
Danny's
stay-at-home
old.
dad. He works during the day.
Okay. Yeah. So, and well, for me, like I have a very flexible job, so I work about 90% from home, and Danny is a full-time stay-at-home dad, and so it works really well for us to just have like a morning. So we usually Wednesday mornings at like 9, 10 o'clock, like we jump on and do the show. So
See,
it
now
works
that's
out really
fantastic,
well.
and you're less likely to get interrupted or rescheduled because the nighttime is like the Wild West. That
It
that is
is.
when all the stuff that you needed to get done suddenly, oh hey, there's an opportunity. Now you're getting it done.
Yep. Our first year that we actually started the show, we would have run-ins all the time for like bedtime. Like we would be recording at like 8, 9 o'clock. And it was like kids would be coming in to say goodnight. And it was like, okay, this is fun. I mean, it just definitely shows like it's real life. But at the same time, we were like, all right, how do we cut this out? And it ended up working out that all the kids were in school and we could do it during the day.
Have you ever considered talking to them on your podcast?
Yes, I have actually. My son actually is in a class at his school where I think there's only like 5 of them in there, but they're learning about podcasting and whatnot. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna,
cool that they teach that now. Like
yeah, it is really
specifically.
cool.
I remember being a kid and I had a boombox and it had a cassette recorder in it. And
Yeah.
I remember really enjoying like making fake radio ads by recording my voice because it had a recorder. There was a little microphone built into the thing
Yep.
somewhere. And so you'd hit record and you could record, and I would make my own little radio ads, my own little like, shows and stuff like that. I thought I'll be a radio DJ. No, this was in the 1990s before podcasting was a thing. I was born to do this. I just wasn't born to be paid to do it.
Well, when I was in high school in the 90s, actually got to be a radio DJ at our school because we had a full-fledged radio station. And so,
Oh,
yeah,
sick.
yeah. So I actually I think it was like a couple of years ago, I came across the photo in my box of photos that I just happened to be rummaging through one day and came across a photo of me sitting in the booth with my headphones on, talking or whatever. Someone had, I think from like yearbook or whatever, had like snapped the photo, and then they usually come around and give them to you like in envelopes and whatnot after like that year or whatever. And I was like, oh man, this is so cool. And so yeah, I would do commercials. We would record them on 8 tracks because you could erase them with a big magnet.
Nice.
And
Oh
so
yeah, that's right. You could just take a magnet to an 8 track and then it's gone.
yeah, and they had ones that like you legit like held down on them and they made like a vibration sound and you would run them across like 3 times and it would just erase everything on the film and then you just slap it back in the machine and hit record and do your next commercial. So, and we were pulling those out and slapping them in. Like it was a really neat radio situation for sure. And CDs, like queuing up songs with CDs and whatnot, which is so different from nowadays. Like everything's digital. So it was a great time to be a teenager in the 90s for that.
What a weird time to have grown up, right? It's like we have one foot in the pre-internet era and then another foot sort of sinking into the quagmire that is the internet era.
Yeah.
But it's nice. I think that we're in a nice position generationally to see this divide, both sides of this new era, which is neat and also kind of terrifying. But also, I think it might
Yeah.
give us a bit of an advantage in some cases when it comes to managing our own kids' media, because that is a question that I think weighs on a lot of parents every day. Like, how much screen time should I give them? What kind of content are they consuming? How are they watching it? Are they interacting with it? What are they getting from it? Is there a message in here? Is there a message in here, Paw Patrol? Is there? I wonder,
Hmm.
Paw Patrol. When I say, yep, nope, never mind. Almost took it too far. It's that Afrin. That's what's getting to me right
It's
now.
okay. It's okay. I'm not a Paw Patrol fan at all, and it's definitely because of the fact that there are just some very interesting attitudes and perspectives on things where I'm just like, I don't need my kid to be involved in this. There's enough going around them.
Oh, we break it down in the first episode that we ever did of Hop on Pop Culture. We talk about Paw Patrol and how it's a
Yes,
dystopian libertarian nightmare. And I you can go back and listen to that, but I will
do.
say
Yes,
that over
they
the
need
course
to.
of time, our episodes have gotten much better in content and quality. So you don't have to start from the beginning.
I did. I listened to
Oh,
all of them.
thank you. I
I went
appreciate
through. I
that.
started from the beginning and went through them all. And yes, as a longtime podcaster, you can definitely see where the progression was. But it was good. Like each episode is hilarious and has great insight. And I honestly, I'm one of those people when I listen to a podcast, like I react with it all the time. Just with either you're like, oh, what is that show? What is that show with like that robot, whatever? I was like, Short Circuit.
Yep.
Like
Oh, that's
on the
right. Yep. I
because I,
landed
I was
on it
yelling that.
eventually, but I got to it. I was listening to Home Dad Chat the other day. I was listening specifically to a guide to teaching life skills at an early age, quote, so they become an adult that can handle themselves, unquote.
Yes.
And I was reacting out loud to that too. I had opinions. Some were shared, some were slightly differing. But my main takeaway, Brock, is this. Danny sounds like Nicolas Cage. Has anyone ever told him that?
I don't think so.
The
I like
next
that
time you
though.
record with him, could you get him to say, "I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence" for me? Would you?
I can
I'd love to hear it. So if you could put that bug in his ear, I'm telling you, it's gonna sound just like him.
I definitely I think I can even like key that up to where he wouldn't even know and just walk him right
Yeah,
into it.
if you could trick him into saying the specific phrase, I promise it's not a Winter Soldier bit.
I love it. That's great. I actually have not thought of that, but I might have to listen a little bit harder to hear that. I love Nicolas Cage. I think he's hilarious. Him and Keanu Reeves are probably some of my two favorite like actors just
Yeah,
from that
they're
era.
amazing, and I feel like they don't get. I mean, they get credit, they do,
Yeah.
but I feel like they get some unnecessary criticism. They
Yeah.
they they are who they are, but there's a lot of like subtlety and variation in between all their performances. But there are some people, some performers who just are who they are, and that is what makes them very interesting to watch. Christopher Walken is one of them.
Oh yeah, I
Nicolas
love
Cage,
Christopher
Keanu
Walken.
Reeves. Yeah, and it comes to me, everything just keeps coming back to Commedia dell'arte, the old theater form where they had these stereotype roles, and it was the same like five different stock characters in different
Yep.
situations every time, and you would just watch it, and that's what they are. They are basically the stock Commedia dell'arte characters of our Hollywood casting circle that we have these days. We'll watch them in anything, any version of themselves.
Oh
We will
yeah.
watch it.
Well, that's why I love about Sonic 3. It just to hit that, just to touch that really quickly, and we'll get back to talking about kids and technology and all that. But like Sonic 3, you guys mentioned the fact that like, Jim Carrey comes in and breaks the fourth wall. And to me, I died laughing. Like I was just like, this is hysterical. And my son, who like has really gotten into Sonic, was like, what? And I was explaining it to him in the movie theater because like there wasn't a lot of us in there, but there was enough of like kids that I'm like, nobody's gonna care if I'm talking. And so I was
I do
explaining
like
it
that
to
when the
him.
pressure's off, you can tell the
Yeah.
vibe of the theaters. This is a kids movie. They're talking out loud. It's
Yeah.
fine.
So I was explaining it to him. He's like, "Oh, that's hilarious." And then just all the other things, but to have him and Keanu Reeves and, just the other actors and actresses that are in it, like there were so many little like just these fun little under the radar jokes and things that they were for adults. They were for the parents that were there for the most part in some areas. And I was like, "Oh man, like this movie I enjoyed way more than the first two because of all of that." Uh and
It is
so
my favorite of the three, and
yeah.
I say that with a heart full of love for the first one, and then even more for the second one. They keep getting better.
Yeah.
I love it. I even loved the Knuckles show in between two and three.
The kids watched that. I didn't watch that with them, but the kids watched it. They really liked it. So, but that kind of goes back to the whole idea of like screen time and how much, screen time you give to your kids or whatnot. And I feel I feel like me with my kids being 9 and 12, they get a lot of screen time, but they do a lot of work as well. So it's just sort of like a nice give and take so that I
Yeah,
can get things done around the house.
what do you define as a lot of screen time in your house?
I would say I don't know. It depends on the day, really, but there are days where they might get 2 hours of straight screen time or even 3 hours of
That
straight.
does feel, yeah, that like in a row. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that does
I
feel
try
like
to
a
break
lot,
it. I
right?
try to break it up from time to time with like, hey, like go unload the dishwasher. Why don't you guys go upstairs and play or, clean your room or something along those lines. Or if it's nice out, it's like get outside type of deal. Typically we have the rule though, if it's nice out, like the TV doesn't come on because we're just like, it's nice out, go outside. Like very, very Gen X. Like you have nowhere else to be but outside. You don't
Oh,
need to
we
be
gotta,
in front of
yeah.
the
And
TV.
it's important to enjoy the world while we still have it. So, that's also something to
Yeah.
consider. I keep
Yep.
thinking way too much about the Star Trek episode Inner Light. Well, we're not here to talk about Star Trek. Hey, I got my catchphrase in. Which it turns out that's my catchphrase because I have ADHD and my kid probably has it too. And that means that we interact with screen time, I think, differently than some people. But
Okay.
yeah, 2 or 3 hours. Now, this is after school, I'm assuming, right? They come home
Oh
from school,
yeah.
they get a bit of screen time after that. And
Yeah.
they've been
Yeah.
presumably off of screens the majority of the school day or almost
Well,
all of
let's
it.
pause on that for a second because that's not the case with
Well,
some of these
oh, okay.
schools.
You have a complicating factor.
I
Okay.
do. I have a complicating factor because for whatever reason, uh, there's this new wave of how to get kids to study and interact with learning. And it seems like tablets and laptops have become sort of this like, hey, like, let's make this entertaining and fun for you. And you can play this game. And to be able to advance in the game, you actually have to answer questions that are based off of what we're learning for like an upcoming test or whatever. And so they do
Okay.
that at
A tried and
school.
true method.
Sure, but it's really frustrating when it's like I know that they've already had probably a collaborative hour of screen time at school doing that, and then they come home and they're like, "Hey, can I jump?" Like they want to jump right back on it or whatever, and it's hard for me sometimes. I'm like, "All right, on one hand, I know this is actually them like studying. Like my son especially, like he loves school. He's like, this is a way for me to like, understand the material better and like do better on my test or whatever." I'm like, you're a really good lawyer right now. This is killing me. But at the same time, too, I'm like, can't you? Cat, don't you have a book or something? And they're like, oh, we're not allowed to bring our books home with us and all this other stuff. And
Like
it's like,
textbooks or library
yeah,
books?
no textbooks. We actually, this school doesn't even have a library. Anything like book wise that they would need either is like they have, like they bring it in, or if it's something where they're doing some sort of research, a lot of times like they just utilize the public library to get the books that they need.
Shout out to the public library, by the way. I
Oh,
have a stack of like 20 CPL Chicago Public Library books stacked up in my daughter's room, which I cleaned earlier today.
I
Um,
love the public library here in
I love the
Cincinnati
public
too.
library, and it's a great alternative to after school screen time because it's open, it's free for kids. My kid is 6, and our branch that we go to, they've got like big stacking Lego bricks by the window that the kids are
Oh,
allowed to
cool.
take down and play with quietly. They've got coloring pages and crayons and writing material and stuff like that. And then they've got all the books that you get to borrow, for free, and you can borrow any number of them.
Yeah.
My daughter really loves it whenever we go to the library, and I'm trying to do that more frequently.
Yeah. Our library actually also has makerspace. So like you can go in and make buttons
Oh,
or
that's cool.
yeah, or
That's cool. My kid would
stickers.
love that.
Yeah, it's cool because you do the whole press down and crimp them and all that kind of thing. Like it's and you can even like print off like if you're like, oh, like I really like this character and it's not one that maybe they have printed, you can go print it off and cut
I
it
think
out and
there
put
is
it on a button.
significant value, especially for kids, in being able to make something that you then have a tangible result for, and
Oh yeah.
making something cool like like a button or something like that. Or I'm gonna tell my kid, oh, um, uh, okay, we're getting away from the screen time thing again. I just realized we're way far away from it. Here's
We
my
are.
question about your screen time, actually. So they're on the screens at the school and they're doing specifically those school projects. Now, I
Yes.
imagine that the iPads at the school are set up in a way where they have to remain focused on that specific application or page. And they're not just like watching YouTube videos or anything while they're
Right.
doing that or playing Roblox or something, which, ooh, I just heard the collective shudder from all the parents in the audience. Roblox, oh, the devil's blocks. Um, uh, the way I see it, their brains engage differently in it. If you're sitting there and you're watching a YouTube video and you got your headphones on, like that sort of takes up your vision, that takes up your brain space. You're in that world. That's where you are right now. And getting out of that, being taken out of that, taking your headphones off, stopping the video, and then like re-entering the reality, the physical reality around you. I mean, that's a task for an adult sometimes too. Like,
Oh yeah,
you feel
definitely.
yourself going through that. And for a kid, that something like that can be absolutely like amplified. Now, I think if they're doing specific work on a specific app that the school has and they're like in on that, they're still not entirely submerged. They're still out there. They're around their classmates who are sharing in the same activity that they're doing. So in my mind, I wouldn't necessarily count that as screen time, even though they're using a screen. And that's something that I'm gonna have to juggle too as she gets older. Is like this technology is becoming more prevalent. It's going to be used everywhere. It is a tool. Did people complained about paper when paper was made and started being distributed at schools? They're like, well, if people use paper, then what's going to happen to the chalkboard industry? My kids aren't going to have a job if they can't go make chalkboards. Like, so we got to watch out for that we're not repeating, you know, the the phobia of new technology and that we aren't turning ourselves into Luddites by
Very
doing that.
true. Very true.
Yeah, I think it's I like my kid wants screen time right when she gets back from school. And she's only in kindergarten. And they do tablets sometimes for parts of the day in kindergarten, but again, it's one of those everyone is doing the same thing and it is an activity based thing. They're not just like in their own worlds, being ignored. If when she comes home, if she wants to watch, something on her iPad or if she wants to play a game on the Switch on the TV or something like that, I'll hook her up for a little bit and then I'll take that time to go do the dishes and go do something,
Yes.
nearby that needs to be done for the house. And like you said, I'll set a timer and we'll take breaks. But the thing is, and I think this is a tip that some parents might be able to use. I will throw a caveat out there. I'm not an expert. I'm just a dude on a podcast, literally the worst source of information on the planet. So take this with a grain of salt. May or may not work for you. Results may vary. Um, you got to offer them something in this reality to replace what you're taking. You got to sort of Indiana Jones it with the golden idol.
Yes, I love that analogy.
Yeah. So, I'll go about and I'll finish like doing the dishes. I'll have a timer ready to go off, and then I'll get out a card game or a board game or something, or I'll get some arts and crafts supplies out. But just like some sort of activity that you do together with the kid, because you can't expect, like, they're on screen time. Sometimes they're doing that. It's a solo activity. You're around, but you're not necessarily interacting with each other. And in my situation with me and my kid, that's a great way for her to decompress from being. She keeps reminding me, kindergarten is 7 hours long, Daddy. I'm like, yes, it is, and yet it hardly feels like I have 7 hours to do anything in a day. Um, so
All that free time, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I was in a Lyft the other day, and my driver was talking about how his 11-year-old nephew takes the iPad into the bathroom with him, and I had to remind him, like, well, you take your phone in with you, don't you? Let's not judge the kids too harshly. Let's be aware of what the actual act of going into the screen and coming out of it feels like, and how
Yeah.
difficult that might be for someone who is younger and not experienced and not emotionally mature and hasn't lived in a world where you had to use a phone book.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of that. I mean, all those different things from back in the day when we were kids, like, it's like compared to what we had growing up to what they have growing up is, it's George Jetson versus Flintstones in some ways.
You know what's surprisingly hard is inviting people to a kid's birthday party, because I don't have the contact info for most of the parents in her classroom. When I was a kid, they literally handed out they printed it and stapled it. It was a big old directory, and it had every student in the school separated by grade and class, alphabetized within that, and it had their first name, their last name, their parents' names, their phone number, their address, everything you
Yeah.
need to steal an identity was in this book.
Now
And
I
they
will
just
say
passed it out to all the students.
at our school, they do have that database electronically so like I can actually look up kids' names and it'll pop up all their like contact information for their parents and everything. Like they've done a really good job with being able to allow parents to connect with other parents and
Well, that's really cool. Do you have to be signed in to do something like that, though?
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Oh, that's good. I'm glad they
there's
got it
definitely a
secure.
firewall and everything for it for sure. Yeah, you have to have like specific like codes from the school and stuff. So yeah, it's nice. It actually has worked out really well, especially when like it's like, hey, so my kid forgot this assignment. Would you be able to scan like take a picture of it and send it to me so that I can print off for him, that kind of deal. And that's been helpful. So we contact people like that. With my 12-year-old too, he has an Apple Watch. And part of that is because like one, we got the kids like the T-Mobile KidSync watches a couple years ago. And those were really nice for us to just communicate with the kids, know where they are, that kind of thing. If
So like
there's
a
ever
walkie-talkie on the wrist, like a James Bond situation.
a little bit, yeah. I mean, you definitely had that ability. Actually, these T-Mobile watches actually had cameras on the front of them, so you could actually
Mm.
FaceTime with them, which was pretty wild.
So almost a
Um,
almost a get smart kind of
yeah,
future
it
deal.
was. I mean, it seemed more advanced than an Apple. It's like Apple watches don't even have a camera on the front of them anymore. Or, maybe the newer ones do, but it's one of those deals where for us to be able to just have conversations, or the two like different contacts, like grandparents and things like that, like they were able to connect with them, and so but when we upgraded him to an Apple Watch, it opened up this like new avenue of screen time things for him. Like he's figured out how to do all kinds of things on his Apple Watch that I didn't even know were possible. Like he's, playing around with making backgrounds and asking Siri for like images of like different like shows that he watches and things like that so that he can make different backgrounds
Huh.
and and then on top of that too, like he'll come home because he can't add a contact into his phone, and so he'll come home and give me like a number of one of his buddies and be like, "Hey, can you add this to my phone so that I can, so I can talk to so and so?" And I'm like, "Sure." So just all this different side of things has been very interesting. The one thing that he has figured out most recently, which I didn't think he would figure out that quickly, is we bought him noise canceling headphones because when we go to church, it's like a small venue with loud music, and it's a little too much for his ears sometimes.
Oh yeah,
And
overstimulating. Can't
yeah,
imagine.
and so he puts he's been putting earplugs in, and I'm like, we'll just get him some headphones. And so we got him these headphones, and he's figured out how to Bluetooth them to his watch so that he can play music from
Oh, nice.
Spotify on there. I'm like,
Nice.
okay, kid. But it's just all those, different little tech things that were things that we didn't grow up with. I'm just like, okay, what's next? What's going
Yeah,
on?
it's
So
amazing how fast they can take to technology.
yeah.
Rebels figured out her tablet, and the way she plays video games is very impressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, video games, that's a big thing. Like we have a Switch here, and so the kids play Minecraft, like not in a online type of setup. Like it's just him and his sister playing, just building creative stuff and whatnot. And it's funny to see like how in depth they've gotten to it to where they'll go on like YouTube Kids and like look up videos on how to
That's
like research more about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what Rebel likes to do. Rebel loves to watch the Minecraft Let's Play videos on YouTube Kids.
Yeah.
And then she'll take what she learns from these YouTube videos and then she will go apply them in the video game. So it's two different kinds of screen time interacting with each other, but I can
Right.
see the way the gears are turning. She's taking in information, she's retaining it, and then she's applying it. And that's pretty cool. I think that's a really nice thing to see happening. And that's
Yeah.
something that she's going to have to, keep doing and keep developing. So, yay, screen time for that one. I think
Right.
screen time is, we can't avoid it. I don't think we should fear it, but we do got to pay attention to it and monitor it and, be there with them. And then in cases like this, very cool stuff can happen.
Yeah, it's interesting how like they kind of intermingle and work together in that kind of way. I know that like for the kids too, they like talking about the library, they went as far as to they were at the library one day perusing the shelves, and my oldest Hezekiah came across a Minecraft book, and it was like basically giving you like all this rundown of like a specific segment within the game. And he was like, "Oh, this is great." And so he took it and brought it home. He read that thing cover to cover, learned all this stuff, and then sits down to play Minecraft. And he's teaching his sister how to do like all this stuff. And then he's like, "Man," he's like, "there's got to be more books like this." And of course, with having an app for the library, I'm able to like pull all that up. And
Nice.
there's like a whole series of them. He's like, "I want them all." He's like, just and so like I'm like, "Well, we'll just do a couple at a time." And went through and he read these things like front to back, and it's insane all the stuff that now he knows about that game and what he can do with it. I'm just like, "Oh, okay." Like to me, that like you said is just something that they can use going forward as they get older, and especially with him, like he wants to be a marine biologist, so research is key in that. And I think that with the way that he goes about systematically and learning something, it's going to pay dividends for him in the future for sure.
That's awesome. If you ever, where are you all, by the way?
We're in Cincinnati, Ohio.
You're in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay. Well, if you ever get Chicago way, come
Oh,
say hi. But also, we've got the Shed Aquarium in town here, and that
it's
place
on
is a
my list to,
blast.
if we can get away, actually, I want to try to do like just a quick weekend up. It's only 5 hours from us, so
It's only
just
five. What a Midwestern attitude. Oh, it's only a 5 hour drive. We can do that on the weekend. It's cool.
it's not bad. 5 hours is nothing. Especially when you have one of the newer cars that you literally just hit cruise and it does all the accelerating and stopping for you on the
That could be
highway.
nice. Yeah.
That's super helpful, especially with anxiety going through like big cities and stuff like that. It definitely helps.
Well, I've been living in Chicago since 2010, and I've been driving in Chicago since, let's see, when was my kid born? 20, so it was like 2016, something like that. So I'm going about 9 years of driving in the city. I do not fear it anymore.
Yeah.
Except for parts of there's some highway exit ramps downtown where I'm like, nope, it's everyone for themselves. Here we go. Altruism gets you killed here. Let's just roll.
I cut my teeth in my teenage years and into my early 20s in driving into Chicago. So, because I grew up actually in east Chicago or northeast Indiana, so I used to drive over to Chicago on a regular basis and just run amok in that town. So,
Um,
I love going to Chicago. We have family that live in Illinois, but yeah, it's on my list to get to this year too because I need to meet up with Ariel Eisenberg because he's got some bourbon waiting for me there that he picked up a while
oh
back.
yeah, my co-host Dylan is very much a whiskey and bourbon enthusiast. So
Okay,
that would
nice.
yes. If you ever want to talk someone in Chicago about whiskey or bourbon. Dylan is the man.
There's a big group actually in the Chicago area that there's a group I'm a part of called the Whiskey Enthusiasts, I think, is a Facebook group. And we talk all kinds of different things with that. And they do like different tastings in the city on a regular basis and have some really amazing connections with quite a few distillers. So if he doesn't know about that, you can pass that on to Dylan so he can try to find
I
it.
will. I will. Um, but we're not here to talk about whiskey. If you like hearing me
Depends.
say what we're not here to talk about, you should listen to Hop on Pop Culture because I do that all the time. As I said, ADHD is a real thing, and I'm not. I haven't taken the meds for it today because I time my meds to be at their peak when I'm with my kid because that's when I want to be the best version of myself. So
Well,
you get
podcasting is perfect for ADHD though, because if you don't have a like specific topic, you can just, rabbit trail everywhere. That's me and Danny
And
typically
it's
most
nice to
episodes.
have an anchor. Yeah, it's nice to have an anchor, even if the current takes you wherever.
Right,
You just start reeling it
exactly.
back in, you'll get there.
But yeah, so like with the screen time, I know like especially too like parents who have younger kids, like that is a huge conversation piece. With yours being like right there at the like going into school, and then Dylan's is a year younger, and I'm sure you're around kids that are even maybe younger with their parents or whatever. But like the the idea of what is too much, what's going to be, is it dangerous, like is this going to damage my kid in some kind of way. I just need a break, and I'm just gonna set them in front of here and let this TV babysit them
You
for
got to
a
do
little
it. And I mean,
while.
specifically, we are both, we met because of the National At Home Dad Network, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
as an at home dad, more generally as an at home parent, because I'm sure there are other parents out there who aren't dads who are at home and who understand this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You need a minute sometimes. And if Big City Greens is going to give that to me, if a Minecraft video is going to give that to me, I'm gonna take that. And obviously I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I'm gonna screen what they're screening too. A lot of one of the things that Dylan and I talk about, and one of the reasons that we choose what our kids are into is because we do tend to watch what our kids are watching because you have
Yeah.
to monitor that stuff. I will speak so that the person remains anonymous because I do wish for them to not be sour at me, just in case. But I'm very well acquainted with a child between the ages of 10 and 12. And they are the no, I can't if I say it's a blood relation, then well, now they know who it is. Anyway, um, don't mean to talk about how the sausage is made, but you can just like chop that section. Uh, so my nephew was hanging out with me, and we were playing with Legos, and he took his iPad and he set it up and he had the YouTube on and he just hit play, and so it was playing, droning in the background, and he was looking up at it while we were just building stuff with Legos. And it wasn't a let's play video of a video game. It wasn't like a silly cartoon. It was propaganda, just straight up propaganda modeled to look like the news. It was not a legitimate news organization. It was not a news channel. It was saying things that were definitely not true about people who live in China and things like that. And like I stopped the video and I had to talk to him. I'm like, this isn't my job because I'm not his parent. And I'm sure that his parent has followed up on with this with him. But like you gotta like, do you understand what you're watching? Is it the news? No, it's not the news. This is specifically meant to look like news so that it tricks you into thinking that it's real. And that shit's out there. The
Yep.
YouTube Kids app has been pretty good, I think, about keeping that kind of stuff at bay. I've still gone through that Kids app and I've still blocked a whole bunch of channels. There are these like really poorly made cartoons that I'm like,
Yes. Ugh.
some of it was the content. Some of it was like this character does not, Ladybug from Miraculous does not need to be pregnant, nor does Cat Noir for that matter. And I'm gonna just block this YouTube video that has both of them doing that at the same time. And then I'll get the same video, but now it's in German. Okay, now I got to block that because they uploaded that on a separate account. Okay, now it's in Dutch. What is going on with these European countries and the pregnant
Yes.
cat noir videos? This is not it. So even with YouTube Kids, it's something that you gotta monitor. It's not a bad idea sometimes. I think just sit down and look at the watch history and go through it because the way that we consume the media, the way that it gets into our heads, even if it's just a background thought, it can shape us in ways that we're not aware of if we're not paying attention. And if you are a young kid and you don't know how that works, or that it's designed to work that way, or that your brain works in a certain way, how are you ever going to catch that?
Yeah.
And so that's on us as parents to make
Well,
sure that
that's
we're at least being
and
aware of it.
and that's the thing also too with, having your guard up for that, but also at the same time, I have had to deal with, especially with Hezekiah and his friends, is parents who have a different leniency on what their kids take in, and then how that translates when they interact with other kids. So like for instance, like my kids go to a private Christian school, but that doesn't mean anything in the limelight of what they are consuming online or on TV or whatever it is. And so I have had to had multiple conversations with him, especially because he will say things that he really doesn't know what they are.
Mm,
And
that
I'm
is a
like,
danger.
and before getting like upset, like of course the first thing is what did you say? Like that's the first part of it.
And you gotta like, I mean, I haven't had that exact experience that you're describing right now with like saying
Yeah.
words or phrases, but I mean, like words a little bit because my kid, she's
Yeah.
6 now. She was 5 not long ago. She would, she was sitting on the couch and I was like, "Hey, you did it, kiddo!" Like she was playing a video game, she succeeded at something, and she went, "I fucking did!" And I went, um, hey, not mad or anything. Just could you? What did you say again?" No, it's okay. I want to know what words they were. Could you say it again for me?
Yep.
I fucking did. Cool. Okay, you used it right, but it's a swear word, so we're gonna try not to use it. Um,
Yeah.
thanks a lot, kid.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. So there was a summer where I think it was right before COVID, maybe right after COVID, we had watched through the entire MCU movies, and they were loving it. But more than anything, they loved Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's
Oh,
that
it's one of
one.
the best of that series.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And one of the parts in there where I think it's Star-Lord, he yells like something along like "Let's kick his ass," like they're getting ready to fight Thanos in like Endgame or something along that line. And so flash forward to them in school like the first couple of weeks, and they're playing kickball and they get their teams together, and my son is just so excited like for his team and everything else, and he just turns around, he's like, "All right guys, let's kick their asses," or something like that.
I mean, good use of good context.
Yeah.
Trying to pump
And
his team up. I
and
get
so
it.
and so like the PE teacher, who's like a really cool dude, like I've really enjoyed working alongside him with sports and stuff. He's like w one side of me just wanted to die laughing, and the other side of me had to go complete like professional teacher. And I got of course an email from his teacher, from his like head homeroom teacher and everything. And I emailed him back. I'm like, yeah, I was like, that's my bad. Like we were watching this. Like I,
I
we
learned it from
usually,
watching you, Tube, okay? I learned it from watching you, Tube.
yeah, exactly. And we usually go along the lines of telling them like, hey, like you're gonna hear some things, these are not things that you should repeat, and that kind of deal is usually the conversation that goes. So, yeah, that was a pretty interesting. We haven't had any issues since then, and they've watched plenty of other stuff. So I think we're good on that time of
Uh,
thing. But when it comes to his buddies, though, just crazy stuff. And of course, luckily we haven't gotten into the whole like skibbity toilet bullshit that is out there.
I
Thank goodness.
that's the thing that makes me feel old because I was doing okay keeping up with the internet, and then Skibbity Toilet happened, and I'm done now. I'm done. I'm done. And I don't mean to sound old, but I think there should only be 151 Pokemon. I don't think there should be 1,025 like we got these days.
Agreed.
Now, where's my
Agreed.
cane? I want to shake it in the air.
Get off my lawn, kids.
Get off
For
my
sure.
lawn.
But yeah, so it's one of those deals where you have to kind of I dive into more of like, so I studied as a youth minister, and one of the things that they always taught us in classes for like psychology type of things with working with kids was kids are going to come up to you and they're going to tell you some things, and it's the way that they are going to continue on that conversation or relationship with you is based upon how you're going to react to that. And if you can be non-reactive and just like like, okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit more. So like when he says things, it's like, so just curious, where'd you learn? Where'd you hear that at? You know, like, and having a conversation is a lot better than like, whoa, whoa, like, what did you say that for?
Yeah.
And just,
And
come
like
at
you
them with,
said, you sounded like your kid heard that watching screens at someone else's house. Wait, no, you actually no, you said you were watching it with them, didn't you?
well, this would have been just him hanging out like recess and lunch with his buddies and having
Right,
this
but
conversation.
where did he hear kick their asses? Was it
Oh,
someone
that
else's
was
screen or was
definitely
it a
me.
screen?
Yes. No,
Oh, okay. So
that was at
even
our
if
house.
we monitor it, we can't control how they use the information. But it is
Exactly.
important to be able to give them context and stuff like that.
Right.
I'll
And he,
share with you a little family secret of ours. We've been using swear words to get our kid to learn how to enunciate certain sounds and letters because, she's had a little bit of trouble. She goes to speech therapy once a week, once or twice a week in school too. Just trying to get those L's and those R's and those W's, things like that.
yeah.
And SH sound was a big thing too. And we were playing a board game, and I'm going to omit a lot of context for the sake of expediency here. But the phrase "pointy shit" came up, and it was very funny because the way that it came up was our daughter, who was 5 at the time, was getting frustrated with her mother and the clues that she was being given, and she just went, "I keep giving you pointy shit," but she said pointy sit, and so my wife, to like you said, non-reactive, like gets caught off guard, takes a second, composes herself, and goes, "Okay, if you're gonna swear, you gotta do it right. It's pointy pointy it," and it got her to work on her sh sound. So now she'll keep saying pointy shit, pointy shit. I shit my nose instead of I have to blow my nose. It's I shit my nose, and it's cute because she does it at home. We have not been given any notes that she does it at school, so we're assuming we're okay there. But yeah, screens and foul language. Nothing to be afraid of, just something to be educated about and monitored and controlled.
Right.
That's
Definitely.
that's all it comes down to.
Yeah. Having guards up and basically being able to, react to it, like you said, like just in a way that's not going to overly react is definitely good.
Now, what
And
kind of screen time do you do with your kids that you're both interacting at the
oh,
same
yeah.
time? It could be like maybe you play Mario Party together. We do that, and boy, has that led to talks about fairness and emotions.
Yes. I would say Mario Kart Deluxe is a
Oh,
big
you
one.
play dangerously.
Oh, that's old school, man. I love
I
that stuff.
No, I can't play the new Mario Karts as much anymore because I
Oh,
zone in. I get into it. Have you seen the Disney movie Soul? The Disney
yes,
Pixar
I
one
think I
with Jamie
have.
Foxx. Yeah. In that movie, there are lost souls who get so completely obsessed in the real world with, what is going on right in front of them. They get lost in it. They go into this like zone inside the spiritual realm where that's where they are. Their body is in the physical world, but their head is somewhere else. And if I'm playing Mario Kart, especially one of the new ones on the Switch,
Yeah.
that is it. I'm in that cart and I'm gonna
Oh, okay.
fucking win. And I every time the race ends, I put down the controller and I have to tell myself to breathe. I have to relax my muscles. I can feel my arms pulsing with blood pressure.
Oh, wow.
I can't keep doing that anymore. I don't know what it is. That and laser tag are there's two things that really set me off. I'm not an elite athlete, but you put me in a laser tag arena, I'm doing my best.
I
We
love
went
it.
to laser tag for my kid's birthday this past year, and Dylan, my co-host, we said, "Hey, we have an odd number of kids. Any adults want to be in the laser tag?" And he immediately threw his hand up, jumped in. And I'm like, "All right, man, have fun. I'm gonna stand in the back there to, just keep an eye on everyone." And I'm standing in the back of the laser tag arena, and he walks up to me. He's got his laser pistol down at his side. He's like, "I need to stop. I'm way too ahead in the lead. I have shot so many kids." And I'm like, "Dylan, don't say that. I'm going to misquote you on a podcast sometime. People are going to get the wrong idea about us.
I love that though.
It's hop on pop culture, not pop culture."
Pop culture. Well, Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. So oh gosh, I lost my train of thought because of
It's all right, sir. I do that to people.
that. Oh shoot. Yeah, so I don't know where to go with that. That's hilarious. Like just I get it. I get it though. Okay. I will say this. For me, watching movies with my kids is another big one. I
Ooh, that's a
enjoy
big one.
like
Yeah.
going through different series. So like we've watched through Lord of the Rings. We've watched
Oh, I
through Back
can't
to the
wait until she's
Future.
old enough for that.
Yeah, we've watched through uh or actually we just finished watching through Pirates of the Caribbean series last night. Just like all these different like series is where they're like, "Oh, that looks interesting." And so we'll watch it. Uh it's really interesting to see their responses to the movies and then have conversations with them based on it. And also too to see things that uh were around back in the day that aren't. Like Back to the Future, hilarious. Like that was so much fun to like watch that with them
Some of
and
those
just
that's a screen time question. I'm glad that you're watching it with your kids because sometimes the movies from that era are they're rated in such a way where you're like, oh, this is PG, and then you realize, oh, this is before they invented PG-13,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
you'll get stuff in the movie that you're maybe not prepared to discuss with your kids.
I quote a lot of Goonies when I'm out just with the family doing stuff like all the time. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, and I've got quite a few different quotes for things. But the one that the one that I quote pretty frequently here of recent, especially when I get around, like we'll go check out like different museums or whatever, is any statue that has like a penis. Like there's actually a David statue at down in Louisville. It's huge. It's outside, like on like a public street, and we were walking by. My wife starts snickering, and I was like, "What? If it was put on the other way, we'd all be pissing in our faces."
I'm glad that you like the Goonies. My wife, big Star Wars fan. You
Oh, I
can
love
tell
Star
because
Wars
our
too.
kid's name is Rebel.
Yep.
Partly after David Bowie, partly after Star Wars, partly because there are certain systems in place that she's going to have to fight against. And boy, we just wanted to give her a heads up. Um, Although sometimes she'll act out and I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, compliance. Compliance is such a pretty name. Why couldn't it have been compliance? Compliance, obedience, you get over here right now. Um, but my wife is huge into Star Wars, and she has been wanting since the moment this kid came out of her to get her into Star Wars as well. She wants that to be a shared media experience that they have together because Star Wars means a lot to my wife, and
Those Star Wars
you know,
cartoons are amazing.
there are some amazing ones there. But it's early days for us yet. She's 6 right now. She's in kindergarten. This is where a lot of my formative memories in my head lie. I got a few before, but this is where it really starts, like sort of taking shape narratively in my head when I think back. So it's a good time to start trying to mine that vein with her. The thing is, watching episode 4, not super exciting.
No.
Um, no, it's a bunch of old white men dying in a hallway, and then Darth Vader
Yeah.
yelling about administrative whatnots. So my wife has started showing her Skeleton Crew on Disney
Ooh,
Plus,
yeah. Okay.
and it is a hit. The kid loves it. These space
Yeah.
pirates with the kids who are a little older than her going off on these adventures. The makeup, the robots, the everything about it is just like been hitting it. So we've been watching those episodes and trying to make that like a family screen time moment.
I like that.
Like the other day, we decided to watch in the basement where we can change the color of the lights in the room. So we changed the color of the lights. I made everyone milkshakes, and then we all sat on the couch and just
Yep.
cuddled up and watched one episode. And she couldn't believe that. Oh, it's one episode. That was so short. It was such a short episode, and I'd never seen her sit through something that was 40 minutes long without moving, and then say afterwards how short that felt.
Yeah.
So that was a nice moment too.
Well, so kind of going along that same lines, my daughter, who's 9, really got into the show Bad Batch,
Oh,
um,
good,
because
good.
the main female character is about her age, and
Omega,
yeah, Omega,
Omega.
she loved every episode. Like I could not watch an episode without her in the room. Like, and if I did, like I was going to feel her full wrath for previewing the show. And so we watched that whole thing and she was so excited about it. And then from there, I think they did like the cartoon like He-Man, I think it was that came out, and then they did She-Ra, which are on Netflix, I believe.
Oh, and
And
the new ones are the classic
no,
ones.
no, the new ones they redid them. They like continued on the story basically. But like she really got into she's really into the whole She-Ra series that they have, and there's some younger characters in that as well, but just also like the female empowerment and things like that, and just the very creative backgrounds of this. Like she's very artsy. She also loves fantasy type stuff and like graphic novel, comic books. So like all those things combined, it just sort of all melted together for her with those kind of shows. And but at the same time, like I won't sit and watch She-Ra with her. She really like just likes watching that on her own. But like Bad
I'm glad you
Batch,
recognize that because even though
yeah,
it might not be like what we might think of like an embarrassing or guilty pleasure show or anything like that.
yeah,
Sometimes the kids do need to be able to like just watch something on their own and not feel like there's any judgment almost. I want to say at least that was my experience. But then again, I watched as much anime as I could when I was a kid,
yep,
and my parents did not understand that at all. They did not
yeah,
understand why I liked the screamy, glowy monkey show, Dragon Ball Z, you know. Um,
yeah,
yeah, and
exactly. So
in anime is how like that was the first time I ever watched a character legit die in a narrative, in
yeah.
something was the Macross Saga Robotech, where this pilot goes out and gets in a dogfight and his plane gets shot up and he comes back. It was a whole thing. He like, oh my God, like it was censored. I found out later the whole thing was censored
Oh
on the
wow.
broadcast, and I'm like, oh okay, that makes sense because then I got the DVDs as an adult and I watched it back and I'm like, that's a lot more blood than my memory suggested. Um, but
Yeah,
the point is, yeah, I'm glad that you recognize that. There are some things that you should definitely consume together. It can bring you closer. It can give you shared interests. It can help you give them context for things that they're watching. And then there's also things that, they should be able to enjoy and watch by themselves and be able to process and experience and feel about in a certain way where they don't feel like there's even a friendly, person or presence just hanging over their shoulder about it. Because even
yeah.
the idea that you're being observed sometimes changes your behavior and changes how you perceive the things around you. So kudos to you for giving them a little bit of space where you can, and also knowing that the media they're consuming in that time is fine and safe.
Exactly, exactly. And that's been the biggest thing for me. So that's I've enjoyed the fact that they like those kind of things, and it brings up conversations, which is cool. Like right and two right now, like they're really big into like listening to this D&D podcast called the Stinky Dragon Tavern.
The
Uh
Stinky Dragon Tavern. I'm going to write that down. I'm
yeah.
actually I'm playing D&D with my kid after school today.
Oh, that's cool. I
I came
am
up.
in the
I'm up.
process of trying to figure that out with them a little bit. Like they seem to like the listen, but I'm not sure if they would enjoy
Oh,
playing so
you
much,
know
but
what? We should have made the topic of this episode D&D because I'm actually a professional dungeon master out of Chicago.
well, we can do that again. I mean, Danny also loves playing D&D. I have never played D&D before, so but
Oh, well,
I enjoy listening to the podcast as well. Also Critical Role, and I got into watching Vox Machina on Prime Video recently. So
very cool, very cool.
yeah, so that's a whole nother show though. We don't want to get too far down a rabbit trail on that. But yeah, there's just so much out there. I really appreciate being able to have this conversation with you though, because just with everything that Hop on Pop Culture talks about, and along with that, just being able to talk to another dad about screen time and just all those implications of it, because it is a hot topic and it is something that a lot of dads talk about in our Discord channel and
I think
on
it's something that
Facebook and
all of
stuff.
us worry about getting wrong because we assume
Yeah,
that the consequences of it are going to be massive down the line.
right.
And we're all just so keyed up about getting it right now.
Well, and
And
so many
again, just a
professionals
reminder,
have like,
there's
yeah,
no
some
universal right. What is right for your kid is right for your kid. What is right for your family is right for your family. It's going to look different person to person, family to family, kid to kid. So you just got to find what's going to work for you. And I think if there is any universal contents, or if there is any universal, aspect to this, it's just be aware of what is being consumed. Uh, Make sure that they can get out of that sphere of being in the screen and give them context and be a part of it with them when you can.
I love that. I think that's a great great ending piece for the show. And with that, Phil, thank you so much for coming on and filling the chair of Danny being out and just being able to have some time to chat with you, man. This has been
Again, see
great.
if you can get him to say any more Nick Cage lines the next time he's on there. I'll send you a list of quotes, and if maybe you can get him to say a couple of them, just like, without him realizing it.
I can definitely
But
try. Nicolas Cage and I share a birthday, so who knows? We'll see what happens.
well, that's nice of him that he didn't just take it, that he lets you share it with him.
I know,
That's
right?
very
Yeah,
thoughtful of him. What a
it's very good.
magnanimous actor Nicolas Cage is.
Right, exactly. Well, hey, everybody, thanks again, and we will talk to you all next week. Have a good one.
Goodbye, goodbye now, goodbye, goodbye.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.